Hi, and welcome to Chapter 7, Hotel Organization and Management. After completing this chapter, you will be able to know how a hotel is organized. We will divide the hotel in revenue and cost centers. We will talk about the Americans with Disability Act and then the control systems. So basically, a hotel is organized into functional areas. If you think about the different departments, it has to obviously function together in order to provide a service to a guest. Obviously, it is there to attract and serve guests and to make a reasonable profit. So I would like you to imagine a hotel in front of you, cut it in half, and then one side we have a revenue centers and their different departments, and then a cost center and their different departments. So how this presentation is going to work, it's going to be part one. I will talk about revenue centers, and then part two, I will talk about cost centers. So revenue centers has their different departments and cost centers have their different departments. Okay, so revenue centers, the definition of a revenue center is that it generates income for the hotel through the sale of services and products to guests. So the different departments that fall under your revenue center is your rooms and your F&B, which is the most or the biggest. And then we have your concession, your rentals, and your commission. So we will basically talk about these departments in detail. Then you have your cost centers. The definition of a cost center is that they are a support center. So they don't generate income directly. They also spend a little bit of money, but they are more a support center. But when I get to the different departments, it will make more sense. Okay, so they support the function of your revenue centers. Examples would be your administrative and general department, your information and telecommunication systems department, which is what we know as IT, and then your sales and marketing department, as well as your property operations and maintenance department. So without further ado, let's start with your revenue centers. Right, so your first revenue center is your rooms division. Your rooms division, I would like to say, is the biggest um, revenue center in a hotel because it's the major division and the central reason for the business entity, because people will want accommodation. They won't necessarily would eat there, so F&B division not necessarily, but they would definitely need accommodation. So there has to be an organized, it needs to be organized, okay, no matter what size or the category of the hotel. And it does not change the basic tasks that needs to be performed. So there's 4 departments that falls under the revenue center. So as you can see here, this is a very nice long question. So in a test or in an exam, you can be asked to discuss the 4 different departments that we find in a revenue center. So the 4 different departments that I'm referring to is front office, reservations, housekeeping, and the uniform service department. So let's start with front office. So what happens in front office? So what front office does is to process reservations. So when a guest checks in, they need to make sure that all reservations are processed. So when a guest registers, they register the guest as a checked in or registered guest. When a guest checks out, they settle their guest accounts, make sure that the guest pays. When a guest checks out, they make sure that all the everything that they used or ate or everything is added to the guest account. When a guest checks in, they have to distribute all the guest room keys. If there's any mail or messages that needs to go to the guest, and any information. Because remember, let's say the guest wants to go for a movie or something like that. Front office has to give them that information. Also, with regards to information about the hotel, front office needs to tell them we have a spa, or we have a swimming pool, a heated swimming pool, and this is the times of the restaurant. They need to give them all information about the hotel. They are also the most visible part of the desk. So when anybody, a guest or whatever, comes into the hotel, they are the most visible part of the hotel. The reason for that is so that they can welcome a guest, but also discourage unwelcome visitors like beggars, hawkers, or even thieves. And also, if a guest wants to sneak out without paying, they can see them. So what are the duties of a front desk agent? Summarized: to greet the guest, to register them, to establish a payment method, whether it's going to be cash, credit card, or through a company account, to assign a clean and unoccupied room, because remember, housekeeping and reservations, they work on a central reservation system. So as soon as housekeeping has cleaned a room, they inform the housekeeping manager, and housekeeping manager also works on the central reservation system. And as soon as this room is cleaned and ready for occupation, they click a button and it immediately shows front desk that this room is ready for occupation, and then they can room a guest. Then they assign keys to a guest. They inform the guest where their room is located, the facilities, remember, with regards to the information. They answer any questions if the guest has it about the community surroundings, and then they call the bell person to come and get their luggage. Then with regards to small and mid-sized hotels, the front office is normally the cashier, so they have to be cross-trained. When I said now in the previous slide about the central reservation systems, I said about property management system. That's when we say PMS. So the centralized reservation system, when a guest buys something, it automatically posts charges to their guest account. So whether they have a drink at the bar or a meal at a restaurant, it automatically links it. So if they have something at the minibar, their room bill, everything is on the property management system. Then point of sales is all your like your handheld devices, the credit card machines, all those things. Your point of sales. And then night audit also falls under front desk. This person works during the night, exactly what the term says. They make sure that all the guests who check out the next day, their accounts are ready for, and all the billing is done ready for checkout the next day. Then the next department is the reservations. So they have to be very skilled with regards to telemarketing. That means that it's almost like those people that phone you that wants to sell something. So they process reservations through the central computer reservation systems. So not only is it the people that work for the hotel, it's also travel agents and hotel representatives that can make bookings. So they have to handle all the calls that they make with skill and efficiency, and they have to keep very good records. So how is reservations done? Thank goodness for internet, of the technology, that we can go right onto the hotel's web page and make a booking, and later on we can be sent a confirmation email whether they have availability or not. So you can use the internet. You can also make a booking or reservation through a travel agent, a hotel representative, a tour operator, or the hotel's independent reservation system, or also even through an airline or a cruise line. So obviously there is you have to make sure that you use the right techniques in pricing and selling of rooms, because you still have to make a profit. So you have to set the most effective pricing structure for guest rooms. Okay, so by limiting the number of reservations based on the expected profitability of a reservation. So you also have to review the reservation activity. And if you remember when we spoke about convention groups and so on, they have to negotiate volume discounts for wholesalers as well as groups. And the reason why we do that is because we want them to actually come back. So you have to provide your customers with the right products, what they actually want, because if they are happy, the chances are very good that they will return and even bring more potential business. So reservation agents must be effective salespeople as well, and that's where suggestive selling and upselling comes in. Suggestive selling is when you are selling a room and you add extra things that costs more, make the bill more. Upselling is when, let's say, a guest requested a double room, for instance, and you see on your reservation system that the honeymoon suite is available, and you know that nobody is occupying the honeymoon suite this weekend. So you are grabbing your chance and you say, you know, Mr. Smith, I know you are not on honeymoon, but because you are here for business and you've been here for the whole week, why don't you upgrade to the honeymoon suite? There is a jacuzzi, and you might this weekend maybe take some stress off and so on. Why not for $200 more a day? Book yourself into the honeymoon suite. Take a load off, enjoy the jacuzzi. It'll just cost you $400 more for these 2 days. That's upselling. So you are getting them to pay more than that what they originally was going to pay more. So you come with that little bit of manipulation if you get what I mean. Right, so the next one is, or your third division in rooms, is housekeeping. So housekeeping is the largest department that we find in rooms division. They clean hotel rooms and public areas. They're the largest staff members. So we find your executive housekeeper, your assistant housekeeper, the room inspector, the room attendant that cleans the room, your house person crew, your linen room supervisor. They have so many people working in housekeeping. Obviously, the bigger the hotel, the more people as well. If it is a smaller hotel, like a boutique hotel, they don't necessarily have, they will have housekeepers that makes the beds and clean the rooms and such, but they won't have on-premises laundry, for instance. They will most likely have contractors that cleans the linen off-site and brings it back. Okay, so it depends on the property once again. So in charge of housekeeping is the executive housekeeper. They obviously make sure that there is a strategy in place, to save money and all of that. So they, just like the boss or top management of any place, they make sure of all the plans and strategies in place. So what is the duties of a room attendant? Obviously to clean the guest rooms. They are assigned a quota of guest rooms. On average, guest room attendant cleans about 12 to 15 guest rooms. It all depends on the type of hotel as well. If they are an all-suite hotel, that means that they have different types of rooms. You can't have one person clean a presidential suite plus and still have 12 to 15 rooms. Obviously, a presidential suite, for instance, looks like a loft. I mean, it's a big place. You can't have them clean that and 11 other rooms. It's going to take them forever. So you need to take that into consideration. The only negative thing of being a room attendant is that their pay is very low. The reason for that is because they don't have the education. They didn't most likely finish matric. Okay, so they are allowed to actually pay them lowest salary. So they depend on tips a lot. Good. So when a guest checks out of a room, that's the busiest day for a room attendant because they have to completely remake the bed, the room, refresh the room completely. So they have to remove the soiled linen and towels and replace them with fresh ones. Luckily, each room attendant have a housekeeping trolley. On the housekeeping trolley is everything that they need: fresh linens, fresh towels, all their cleaning utensils, chemicals, trash bins, bags, all of these things. They check the beds, the blankets for damage. If there is, they obviously will report that. They make the beds, they empty the trash. Remember, you guys, you never ever put your bare hands or hands whatsoever in housekeeping trash. You never know what is in those trash. There might be needles or razors or even, something gross as condoms and things like that on there. So always be very, very careful when you put your hands in there. That's why there is on the housekeeping card a trash bag on the side. You literally just throw your trash bucket in there, so you don't have to reach with your hands in there. Good, you check for broken appliances, report that to engineering. If there is forgotten items, no, you don't take it. It is not yours. You immediately inform front office and reservations about that, because remember, they have the contact details of the guests stayed there, so they can inform that of the forgotten item. Then you clean the room, you clean the bathroom and everything. Then you replace the bathroom towels, the linen and all that, as well as the amenities. And the amenities I'm referring to is the little bathroom thingies, the shower gel, the cream, all of those free sample thingies that the guest is allowed to take. Then how the room attendants or the housekeeping is also responsible for cleaning the rest of the hotel, like the hallway and vacuuming and so on. But in big hotels, they do, however, get outside cleaning services to clean the terrace and the windows and things like that. And it's normally done in unusual work hours, and it's normally done at night. Then the last department that we find in the housekeeping or the rooms department is your uniformed service. So there's three that I need you to know, which is your bell person. Your bell person we also know as the porter. So the bell person moves the luggage for the guests to and from their rooms. They escort the guests to their rooms after they've been checked in. So while the porter or the bell person rooms the guest, so as they enter the room, they switch on the light. They say to the guest, "This is where you switch on the light." Um, they switch on the TV. They show them how the TV works. Switch on the light. What people don't realize is while they're showing them how things work, they're actually checking if everything is actually working. Because if it's not, they can immediately tell engineering that something is not up. And very, very important, this is the last point of information for a guest. That is why a bell person needs to have very detailed knowledge about the hotel, but also the surroundings of the hotel. So a guest can say, "Sorry, I can't remember what time is the restaurant closing, or what is the special for tonight." The bell person needs to know this kind of information. Or the guest can say, "What time does the spa open, or what time does the gym open?" Something like that. The bell person needs to know that. Okay, So they have to have information even about the local community. Where's the closest Indian restaurant? Anything like that. They need to know that. And that means they can be deserving of a tip. Okay, then we have the concierge. The concierge to me is like a butler. Okay, they go that extra further mile. So it's like a host of its own home. They provide that personal and attentive service to a guest. They're also a main source of information. And why I see that if they can maybe overhear that a guest loves opera, and this concierge can actually go out of their way to get opera tickets for a guest at half price or even free because they have that contact. That is what a concierge is or does. Okay, so they can also recommend hotel services and outside activities. Then we have transportation services. That includes your valet parker. This is the person that takes your car and parks it for you. Airport shuttle services is the driver that comes and picks the guest up at the airport. And then the limousines is if the hotel actually has this type of service. Then something very important but very easy to understand. So please don't make a mathematical block because I know exactly how you feel. I am not very good at maths and I hate maths, but I get it. So if I get it, you can get it. Okay. So please go to page 199 and have a look at those formulas. So by the way, you need to just know these formulas for multiple choice. We don't ask this in section B or C. So in exams or in your test, you just need to work out the answer, but you need to know the formula. Okay. So sometimes, well, all the time, you need to know how your rooms division is performing. And you can work that out by doing these three formulas. Okay, so the first one is your average daily rate. So you want to find out on average how much did you ask for a room. So how do you work that out? Okay, so if you look on page 199, have a look on Monday. Okay, so the formula says how to work out the average daily rate is you take your room's revenue. So how much money did you spend on Monday? And you divide it by the room's amount that was occupied for Monday. So if you look at the figures given to you on Monday, the room's revenue that you made for Monday was $23,800. Okay, and you had 170 rooms occupied. So the formula says it is $23,800 divided by 170 rooms. So on average on Monday, how much did you ask? What was the average daily rate on Monday? It was $140. So it doesn't mean you asked for every room $140. It means on average your rate for Monday was $140 because you made $23,800 and you had 170 rooms occupied on Monday. Does that make sense? Good. Then the next one is to work out your occupancy percentage. Occupancy percentage means how full is my hotel. So let's in this case you have to let me see. But it doesn't say. I think this works at the 200. This thing works at the 200 rooms. Okay, they have 200 rooms. So on Monday, let's go to page 200. Yeah, page 200. Okay, so on Monday there was 170 rooms occupied, but they have 200 rooms. Okay, so to work out the occupancy percentage, you take the rooms occupied, 170 rooms were occupied. How many rooms does the hotel have? 200. So you take 170 divided by 200, and because we're asking for a percentage, I multiply it by 100. And the answer is 85%. So my hotel is, for Monday, 85% occupied. Easy peasy. Okay. And then the last one is the RevPAR. You cannot work out the RevPAR if you don't have the occupancy percentage and the average daily rate. Very straightforward. You take your occupancy percentage and you multiply it by your average daily rate. So let's work on Monday. Your occupancy percentage for Monday was 85% and your average daily rate for Monday was 140. Okay, so it is, then your RevPAR would have been 119. How do we ask this in exams or in a test? You would get the numbers just like that, and you would then just choose the right answer. So you have to know your formula. Right, so we're done with the rooms division and the 4 departments. So please know that that is very important. Okay. The food and beverage division is the second one. So it may produce as much revenue as the rooms division. Guys, it's very, very big. I do believe that the rooms is the biggest. The term that you need to know here is your capture rate, the percentage of guests who eats meals at the hotel. So what does managers look at when they decide what kind of food, what kind of beverage services should they offer? There's a lot of factors that's in play. The first one is the type of hotel. Okay. Next is the class of hotel. They are not going to offer, just see, let me think. I can't think now. Okay, but high class, they're not going to offer low class something in a high class hotel, for instance. Okay, then with regards to competition, they need to find out what the competition does and do something better. Product availability, whatever they have or whatever they want to advertise or sell, they need to find out if it's easily available, you know, if the supplier has it in stock constantly, because you can't have something and then never get it again. And then availability of labor, do you actually have staff? And then question of demand, that you want to sell, does your target market actually want it? Okay, you can't have something on a menu and everybody's like, who's going to have this? Nobody wants to have it. Okay, so be clever about it. How is a food and beverage division organized? Very, very important that the staff needs to be highly trained and versatile. Nothing is more irritating going to a restaurant, and me who loves wine, knows wine, drinks a lot of wine, and like to experience new wines and also like to pair wine with food, ask and expect the waiter also know the same. What would you suggest to have with this meal? And they say the Merlot, for instance. I want to die. Okay? No, it's not the waiter's fault. It's not. It's management because they don't train them. All right. So it's all about training your staff. So they have to be trained and they need to be highly skilled. So the different type of staff that we have is your F&B manager needs to be highly trained, highly skilled, come from a hotel school. A chef with a whole brigade of chef, your chief steward, which is obviously in charge of the cleaning and the scullery, your dining room manager, your head bartender, your catering manager, and your room service manager. Then with regards to catering, we spoke about catering in chapter 3. You have convention and smaller hotel groups, local banquets booked by the sales department. So it's all about your functions. Then we've got room service. Walt Disney referred to room service as private dining, which is not quite cute. So room service is when a guest prefers to dine alone in their room or don't come down to the restaurant. Not a lot of hotels have this facility and services in their hotel, but there is quite a lot that does. And it actually says this is the greatest risk of losing money, because hotels didn't plan to have this. They decide they want to have room service, but they don't have the right equipment and facilities to actually facilitate this. And the reason I'm saying that is that you find the waiter then popping into the elevator with a guest with a room service tray. It's a big no. You need to have a proper service elevator for the waiters to go up and down. You need to have proper room service trolleys, equipment, and all of that for this to actually happen. So that is why we say it's quite difficult to manage, and it's because of the distance that it goes. Okay, so when the food is hot, it needs to be hot. It needs to stay hot. So a guest doesn't want to eat cold food. The productivity of the food service is quite low. There is sometimes only one in room service employed. One evening I worked and room service was extremely quiet. This girl, the waiter at room service, she was so bored. She ended up working in the restaurant because she was so bored, because nobody ordered room service. And the next day, it was like nobody wanted to come down to the restaurant. We were so bored. The waiters in the restaurant was so bored. They had to help her because she was running her poor legs off, because all of a sudden everybody wanted to eat in their rooms. Okay, low check average, so people might not want to order, and then all your mise en place goes down the drain. Limited number of food items and food quantity. The menu isn't that big. Hours of service. Room service should be open 24 hours. It should be delivered as quickly as possible. And then you have a doorknob menu. A doorknob menu is a menu like that with a hole where you can actually hook it on the doorknob. It's normally breakfast, where a guest ticks what they want for breakfast, at what time, and then it's collected during the night. And then the chef during the graveyard shift prepares the meal and have it delivered in the guest's room at the time that they specified. Then you have control and support services. This is a very important department, your purchasing department. Without the purchasing department, we will have nothing. We won't have any ingredients, we won't have any linen, we won't have any alcohol, we will have nothing. Okay, in charge of the purchasing department is your purchasing manager. Orders are given to the purchasing department by all the department managers, the chef, the bar manager, or the F&B manager. They have to seek competitive bids from suppliers. So obviously our hotel has suppliers, but they need to make sure that they get the best goods at the best prices, but the correct quality. So obviously the controller is in charge of this department. So they have to supervise it, and also reports to the purchasing department and the controller is the receiving clerk, storeroom clerk, and the cashiers. So the receiving clerk is the person that receives all the ingredients and goods that gets delivered. They need to check all the things that gets delivered against the purchasing order, whatever was ordered, if it gets delivered correctly, right price, right quality, quantity. And then you've got your storeroom clerk. They have to store it into the right storerooms, fridge, freezer, dry goods, and all of that. And then the cashier, the people that needs to pay the suppliers. So the controller we spoke about more in detail in chapter 3. So just to touch base, I have to make sure that everything money related is tracked, financial estimates, stock sheets gets controlled and all of that. So you can just read through that. What problems can the food and beverage operations basically experience with regards to, their daily operations and whatnot? They can have long hours of operations. Remember that, um, you know, they operate the whole time. So it can be slow and sometimes it can be busy and other times. So they have to make up for it when it's in slow times. There's low check averages. So low price breakfast and inexpensive snacks served at odd hours are frequently cited as reasons for unprofitability. So they have to market this. To overcome this obstacle. Too many facilities, so they can't have too many items on the menu and so forth. So, and also poorly planned kitchens, too many equipment and things like that also is inefficient. When we say high turnover with regards to your staff, too many highly paid, because remember, these should be, your staff should be highly versatile staff. So make sure that you get the right staff and keep them happy so that they don't leave. Costly entertainment, sometimes they hire entertainment in the evenings and whatnot. So make sure that you negotiate with these entertainers so that you don't pay too much money. And then insufficient marketing. This is the best thing that you have to do. You need to advertise as much as possible. So if you don't advertise and use all the different alleys possible, print media, broadcast media, exhaust all the alleys, you won't get the word out there. So those are the problems that I'm referring to. Then we have other revenue centers. You have gift shops, newsstands, flower shops, laundry and dry cleaning services and business centers. Even though they are little, they do bring in money. So that's why we refer to them as other. So you also have concessions, rentals, and commissions. A concession can be like a fitness club or a beauty salon. They can be inside the hotel, but it's owned or run by an independent person. Okay, it's not owned by the hotel, but the hotel receives money. Then a rental rents space in the hotel, like an office or a store, and a commission is located outside of the hotel, but they provide services to the hotel's guests. Then we have other things like a golf course and pro. So this is where the guests pay to play golf, as well as the local community also uses this. So it's not just for the guests. So this little bit of income is also seen as revenue. A health club or spa. The guests may want to use this facility. Just remember that many times hotels do provide this as free to use for their guests, but other hotels want them to pay. In parking, once again, you can park your car there. Sometimes it's free to use for a guest, but other hotels prefer them to pay for it.